The gun that I'm shooting today is a Barrett MRAD, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. So to give you a quick rundown on this gun, it is chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. This is a 24-inch barrel. It's fluted. This is the factory muzzle brake on it. You've got M-lock slots on your rail here. It does say that is a 10 mil rail. So it does have some slope to it. It is the quick barrel change version. You loosen up those bolts right there to be able to slide that barrel out, which we're going to do later. Back here on the stock, if you press the button in on the other side, that is a folding stock for that matter. Go ahead and take a look at this butt stock here. With this button, you can adjust the height of that butt pad. If we press right here, we can go ahead and change that length of pull. That's about as far out as it goes right there. I've just been leaving that in. Here on your cheek piece, you do have numbers. So if you've got to adjust this a little bit, it's easier to go back to your original setting if you're shooting with a couple different people. Let's look at the other side here. Now to adjust this cheek piece, this knob right here actually has spring tension on it. So you just pull out, loosen that up, and now it will slide up and down on there. You can kind of feel it. It's got catches inside there, small clicks. And then you can just tighten that back up and it kind of detents. Other things to note about the buttstock is it does have two QD sling mounts inside of that. Down here on the bottom right here, you do have a pick rail so that you can mount this monopod that does come with it from the factory. But I don't tend to like using those. I just like using my rear bag, so we're not going to use that today. One of the other things that I'll show you about this folding stock system on here is that when you close this right here in that hole, there's kind of that little detent bar right there. It does lock down on that bolt handle, so that does not function when you close the stock. The safety on this gun does only have one lever to it. It's not on both sides, but you can flip this around to make it left-handed if you would like. The magazine release is kind of a ambidextrous paddle style on here. It's got just a small lever so you can just reach ahead, push that, drop that magazine out of there. It does lock in very positive, and there's not much wobble inside that magazine well. While we're mentioning the magazine, let's take a look at this thing. You can see that here is the 6.5 round that we're shooting, and there is a very big magazine for being a 6.5. They limit this because in this rifle, you can shoot this, you know, something as small as a 308 and a 6.5 Creedmoor, but you can go all the way up to 338 Lapua and 338 normal mag. So it does have an ejection port large enough to handle that, and this magazine, depending on which caliber you're shooting, will have a different limiter or no limiter space in there. In a 6.5 Creedmoor like this one is a 10 round mag. The grip on here is just kind of your standard AR-15 style grip. This is a mag pull on here, but you could change it out to whichever version that you like. Here the gun is empty. We'll go ahead, I'll use my left hand, show you. This is kind of a two-stage trigger here, very light first stage, but then you hit a nice back wall in it, and then what I would say breaks probably in there at about 3 pounds on this trigger. So very nice, consistent. You know, probably has a little over a 1/16 worth of over travel in it, but overall, I don't mind it. With the rifle, they do supply you with a torque wrench. Here. and it has what that says is a TT30. Now that fits those two screws right here, which you use to change the barrel, which we will be doing later. And we will check point of impact shift on this. We'll shoot a group and then take the barrel off, put it back on, and we'll see if that point of impact changes. Might just as well give you a look at the Pelican case that comes with it. Flip this thing open. So the rifle lays right down in there with the stock folded. Got room for the scope, cut out for the bipod. Got your torque wrench right there. If you had caliber conversions, then you got spots for all the extra mags in here, but it's just got two of them for what would work for the 308 or the 6.5 Creedmoor, like this one's chambered in. Got a little extra spot up there. Got the monopod laying in there. What I'm just initially sighting this in with is just these American Gunner 140s. And so far, it's looking pretty good. Well, from that 5-shot group, I think we're going to bring it one click back to the right. We're going to call that good. That 5-shot group's looking real well just with this American Gunner. Let's go down and take a look at it. Okay. After there's some initial sight-in stuff where we were, adjusted, and there's 5 shots. That gun seems to like that American Gunner pretty good. We just had to, I brought it one click back to the right. That ought to get us centered up. We'll call it good. Okay, let's shoot some groups with these American Gunner 140s. I've already done a little bit of shooting, but we'll shoot a few more. Just to, you know, get a good average of what this thing will do. Kind of blew that group up with that shot. All right. With the American Gunners here, that was me taking my time with 5 shots. That did pretty good for cheap ammo. That there was me walking it up to zero it, so those top 3 weren't too shabby. That group, I definitely pulled that one. I screwed that up, but I think this gun will definitely shoot sub MOA. I'm gonna try to take my time here with these ELDMs and see what we can do with these. Another low one. Alright, that's all for that 5-shot group. I will say some of my initial impressions on this is it seems very stable. This whole platform, the upper part of the receiver to the lower, is is very well fit. It is very rigid and stable when you're shooting this. If you twist on this grip, I mean, you don't get any flex whatsoever out of the forearm or any wobble from this upper to lower connection. I mean, when you're on it, you know, if you're in a stable position, it sits solid as a rock. Go ahead and we'll shoot another group here with it. Take the glove off here. Yep. Other than that one that I messed up, that group wasn't too shabby. Okay, now that we've shot a couple of groups through this thing, we know about where it's at. Let's go ahead, remove this barrel, and take it off, put it back on. We'll see if we get any type of point of impact shift out of this thing. Let's grab this bit here. Say on here, oh, there. You only got to back them out about a turn or so, is what they say. Give that a try. There it comes. Now on this barrel, you can see right there, there is an indexing spot on there. That does have to go to the top. Let's put her back in. Feel that. Yep, it's right there. Close the bolt, lock that in. Now, let's put the bit on the torque wrench. And we will turn this in. Locked in there, and it doesn't say if you need to do either one of them first or not, so we'll just start with the back one. Spin that up. Snug. Snug. Now, close the bolt, and then that way it's head spaced. Both. Yep, one more time. Click. There we go. Let's shoot some more groups. All right, let's do our first group after resetting the barrel back in there. Realistically, I don't think that's off by very far. Let's go down and take a look at those groups. Up here at the 100-yard, let's take a look. Here's our target with the 140 ELDMs. Now, here's the first group. Not too bad. Took my time on that one. Here's the second group. I was starting to get a little bit cold, so I think you got 2 shots here and 2 shots here. But point of aim was right there at that tip. Now, we replaced the barrel, pulled it, put it back in, and then reset it. Point of aim still being right there at that point, and that's what we got. So, if you look at those, the point of impact definitely went a little bit left, maybe a little bit lower. I wouldn't really judge it off that group. I didn't do very good, but on this one here, it is fairly centered up. I may have pulled that one myself. But that one there, like I said, it's probably, maybe 3/8, ½ inch left of that point of aim after resetting the barrel. Well, so far, shooting a handful of groups with the 140 American Gunners and the ELDMs, it is proven that it does shoot 1 MOA, even when I'm shooting fairly fast and cold and shaking a little bit. And the barrel, when you do change it out, it's got a little bit of point of impact shift, but not very far. So I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm starting to run out of light here now, unfortunately, but the next thing that I'm probably going to do is, when I take this inside, I'm going to try to get this muzzle brake loose and see if maybe tomorrow when we shoot this, I'll put a can on it and see if we get any point of impact shift, or how much point of impact shift out of this thing by hanging a can on the front. This barrel is fairly stout, and this lockup mechanism on here, that barrel, that shim is fairly thick. I don't think that it will probably change much just by putting a suppressor on the end of it, but we might as well go ahead and check that too. Back out here again today. As you can see, I took the muzzle brake off. It had some carbon on it. Took a little bit of convincing to get off there, but now I got my Omega on here, so let's see how much point of impact shift we get from the suppressor. I think I'm going to shoot the center of this target. This will be right in between the other two groups. That group looks pretty good. Let's go down and take a look. Let's take a look at what this can did here. This here was kind of my first warm-up group. That was my very first shot there. I won that one. Then I think this is 6 or 7 shots in there. Now let's go back to a little bit of what we did yesterday. This was before we removed the barrel. This was after we removed the barrel. And now this is with the can on there. So that one shot, I called that one. But those other 4 right there, that's probably 3/8 center to center. So if I would have been doing my part, that would have been a heck of a group. So not much point of impact shift, maybe a 1/10, maybe a little over. Not too bad. Just as a comparison, I'm going to swap out this Omega. I put this one on here because right now this thing's got a lot of carbon in it and it's pretty heavy. So now I'm going to trade it out with my Thunder Beast Ultra 7. Being a little bit lighter, I want to see if it matters on that point of impact shift. That was way lower. Both those want the same hole. A little high. Same hole as the last one. Even higher. Let's walk down here, take a look. That actually kind of had the opposite effect of what I thought was going to happen by going to the lighter suppressor. Let's take a look at this. So, this was the Omega. You're about 1 inch down. Point of aim, point of impact. Here's the Thunder Beast. Point of aim, point of impact. First 2 shots, number 3 and 4, and then number 5 went even higher. Might try one more group out of that, but that was about 1 inch. That's averaging 2 inches lower with the lighter can. Well, let's see if I can't just compose myself a little better. take a little more time. See if I can't make a little better group. Where are we going to aim? Like bottom of the diamond's where we're going to have to go. Not a bad group. It's inside 1 MOA. Let's go down and take a look. All right, let's take a look at this last group. Point of aim, point of impact. I'd say averaged about 1.5 inches. First 3, last 2. So not too bad. I think the next thing to do, maybe take it to the big range and stretch it out 600-700 yards. Maybe throw it up on the barricade. See what we can do with it. So I brought this thing out to the bigger range today. We're going to stretch it out, dope it out, see what we can do with this at distance. Maybe shoot it off the barricade behind me over here a little bit. Let's see what you'll do. It should be about 0.4. Shoot that small round here. Yep, dead center. Take that, 0.4. 300 yards. Should be 0.8. That turns out. Just a smidgen low, but centered up pretty good. Take that. Go to 400 yards should be 1.4 mils. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll go for the circle. That's the one I drew the line on. I've got to hold just a little left. Yep, that looked good. Maybe just a smidge low. Didn't quite need to hold that much for wind. That'll work. Going for 500. Should be about 0.2. See what them other two are just a little bit low. We'll give it 2.1. Go for that left-hand round, that bigger one. This wind is changing on me. It's doing between 7 and 12 coming up this hill at us, but it was a little more straight south. Now I feel like it's coming a little more out of the southwest over here and actually causing just a little bit of drift to the left, not much. Maybe just 10 to 2. Let me, there we go, get it on the right target. I'm going to go for that left circle there. Do the whole, probably about 2/10. Need about 3/10. Let's do one more on there. Yeah, 3/10 it was. That's dead center. That looks good. Is that 2/3 dipstick there. Okay, so here is 770 yards. I'm going to go for the big plate here. That way we can judge our wind. I think I'm going to do about a 0.8, 0.9. See what we come up with here. We're supposed to be about, oh, what's that saying for dope? 800 is 5 mils, so I went 4.8 for 770. Let's see what she does. Right hand side, right at the bottom of the watermark. Didn't quite need that much. It was almost more of a 0.5, 0.6 call. Correct that out. That was right dead center, 0.5. Right on the water line. So 770 to 4.8. We'll write that down. So yeah, it was just that easy running dope on this thing. I mean, it's super stable, easy to shoot. I mean, I literally had 3 rounds left out of this box, and I shot 11 out of this one. And that's re-zeroing it with the can on there, just a few clicks off, and then running it out to 770. You know, virtually less than a box of ammo. So, yeah, I mean, this thing's a shooter. Let's throw her up on the barricade, maybe run a drill at 400 yards, see what I can do with it, see how it handles. All right, let's run one. Let's run one off the barricade here. I'm gonna go 300 yards. There's a mini IPSC out there, and that's what I'll shoot. All right. Almost forgot to open the bolt. I got left, but that one. There, I'm out. Missed that one, got off on the windage there. But, I mean, it doesn't handle too bad. Didn't have these caps on here, it'd be a little bit better. I like looking over top of the scope, leveling everything up and sighting down that turret cap to get myself on target. But it doesn't handle too bad, and as you can see, it balances all right on here. It's a little bit back end heavy for doing this, but if you added one set of weights out here, you'd have this thing completely leveled off. The recoil on it does come straight back nicely with the way that this is built, all in line. Shut the GoPro off there. I mean, I do think that this gun handles well, it sits well. I did notice a little bit with this mag well here being so short right there. If you press up against here, it does pull down a little bit. It gave a little bit of resistance when trying to run that bolt on there, but otherwise not bad on the Barricade. All right, 770. Let's let a full mag fly. Oh, we got it twisted. Oh, we're out. That's not too bad. One of the last things I'm going to show you here that I probably should have showed you out in the field is swapping out this bolt head. If you did a caliber conversion, I showed you how to take the barrel out by undoing these two nuts out there when we were shooting, but I didn't talk about if you change calibers to like a 300 PRC or 338 or something, you'll also need to change that bolt face. So underneath the gun, right there, is the button. Have your bolt all the way back. Press that button, and then just lift up, and it separates. Now the bolt will slide out. There are two plastic sleeves on the inside of here, or polymer sleeves, I should say. First thing you want to do, on this model, I should say, is you flip that little lever until it locks, and that will let you turn and pull that out. There we go. Now you've got your spring, your firing pin mechanism all pulled out of there. With that out, you can pull this pin, and on this model as well, some of them, the older ones, I think they all came out, but this one has a roll pin, so that one stays in there, so it only goes one way. It also has a slot milled in there so that you can only put that back that way in there. You can't get that wrong. Once you put your new one in, just drop that back. You can see in here there's a couple of side slots that correspond with right here on that cocking piece. So line those up. Oops. Line them up that way. Turn it and then uncock that, and then go ahead and lock that back in, put it back in the gun. While we're on the subject of the bolt itself, I want to show you this. There are two polymer sleeves in here that bolt rides on. So that just runs through all of those. So it does not have a metal on metal contact at all through the upper and the lower. Being that this is polymer, I mean, and the way that this action is built, where it is fully supported inside here, you can't push hard enough one way or the other, unlike some other, you know, or I would say any Remington 700 clone or standard bolt action, where when that bolt comes out the back side of the action, if you're pressing too far down or up, you can always bind that bolt. With this setup in here, you literally can't bind it up. I mean, it is guided the entire time. You either press it forward or pull it back. It's not going anywhere else, and it can't bind on these, especially since it's not, you know, it's not metal to metal contact, it's metal to polymer. On the bolt itself, there are a couple of raised areas right here, and that's where it rides on. So in the middle here, if you've got carbon, dirt, anything like that, it basically has a bypass for it, a place to go. So if you did get sand or anything in there, dirt, which that's the other thing I'll show you. We'll slide these back in here quick. And you don't have to change these out. You know, they work for all of the calibers. Get that rotated there. There's that one. There's that one. When you are running this, that does work as a dust cover in there when that is closed. So that's kind of a handy feature. So as far as bolt smoothness goes, I mean, you can run this thing pretty fast. Is it as smooth as some other actions, you know, especially some of the custom ones, or even like a factory Tika action is like glass? Is it as smooth as that running through this polymer? Not quite, but it's plenty good. It's better than a lot of other actions. There is no real gritty feel to it, being that it's got those housings in there, that polymer that shrouds it. It's definitely workable, and you can run it with some speed. As far as reliability of function, I never had it bind once with a round in there. It did get a little bit tough when you applied forward pressure on a bag on the barricade. I could feel that it was tipping that mag just enough that I had to put a little extra pressure to get it up the feed ramp, but it didn't bring it to a stop. So I mean, it was very successful on that side of it. As far as ejection goes, I never had one fail to extract and clear the chamber, or, you know, get out of the action. All that, I mean, it's mechanically great working gun. The next thing I'll say is, you know, the overall accuracy and precision that I got out of this gun was good. It meets what the military spec'd as the design for it. I would say, I mean, I've got a little over 250 rounds through this gun so far, and I'll say it probably averages about 3/4 MOA on 5-shot groups. So, and that was with a couple different types of ammo. That American Gunner, the 140 ELD-Ms, and I only had just a couple of 143 ELD-Xs, so I only shot like 2 groups with that. But it still held 3/4 on those 2 groups. So, I mean, real good to see. Is it the most accurate rifle that I've ever shot? No, it is not. But those rifles are not a quick change multi-caliber weapon system either. So you have to take that into account, that, you know, this goes above and beyond what your regular just threaded on barrel, you know, has to meet. Of course, those are going to be more precise. I mean, you can take this barrel off, change out the bolt face. I mean, you can do it in 1.5 to 2 minutes, you know, if you're fast on it. So that being said, it is more than accurate enough. You know, it's more up to you. I mean, you could engage stuff easily out to 1,000 yards with good ammunition through it. So, you know, that's probably the biggest point of, like, you know, do you spend the money on a weapon system like this? If you're looking for something where you can change those calibers out, you know, have one scope, you know, you've got your stock already set, you get used to using the same trigger over and over again. I mean, that part of it is really what you're paying for. But, I mean, that 3/4 inch or 3/4 MOA, it's more than capable of reaching out there. If you put some hand loads in this, if I actually had time to work this up, because this is not my rifle, so I wasn't going to go through the work of doing any hand loads. I bet you could probably shrink this to 5/8 half MOA, and you'd be able to stretch it out even further. Other notes on it, I will say that the folding stock on here, very rigid. I got no problems with this. I've seen a lot of folding stocks that, you know, they got some wiggle to them, they got some play to them. I really don't like that on a precision rifle. It needs to lock up solid, and this does. At no time do you ever feel this thing flex. I mean, there's a little bit of, shimmy back here in the butt pad because of the adjustability part on that, but really not much movement whatsoever. Very happy with the adjustability on that. The overall rigidity of this thing, the fact that this is one piece all the way through here, and then the lockup on this, I mean, you can't twist and torque this gun and have that thing flex. My ACC chassis, if you get on the grip and you start, you know, twisting this thing, you can see that it's flexing out here on the forearm where the bipod attaches to it. In this rifle, you can't get it to do that. That leads to when you were behind this gun, you got it pulled into the shoulder and you're sitting there. I mean, it feels amazingly stable. I love that part of it. If you're square behind the gun, it is easy for it to just fall right back on target because this is a nice inline stock to it. The recoil comes pretty close to straight back to it. Doesn't really have much of a muzzle rise. You know, you get into some bigger calibers, you know, you start shooting the 300 Norma, the 338s that you can get barrel changes for. It might have a little bit more lift to it then, but you know, without running those, I can't really speak too much on them. One of the other things I'd like to make a quick note on is originally this quick detach socket was right in here. But you need to watch the length of your screws. The first time I went to take this barrel out of here, I undid the two bottoms and it pulled forward about 1/4 inch and then it stopped. Well, that sleeve that barrel sits in was hitting these screws. So you do need to be careful when adding anything to this M-lock here. Make sure your screws on there are short enough that barrel will still slide out of there. The only two issues that I really have with it, and they're not that big of issues, is the magazine release. I wish this paddle was just a little bit wider. When I had gloves on and was trying to engage that, I kept kind of slipping off of it, couldn't feel it real well. I mean, if that was just an 1/8 inch wider, 3/16 inch wider, that would be perfect. You can see I still got yellow paint from spray painting all that steel yesterday on my hands. The other thing is the safety. We can, you know, if we had a round in here, we could throw that forward. If we flip it off safety, if we don't fire this, we can't turn that. If you can see that indent there, I can't turn that back to safe. If we lift the bolt handle, now we can put it back to safe. So I don't know what the intention on that part was, but I would like it if you could flip it to safe, put it back, you know, or flip it off of safe, put it back to safe without having to open up that chamber again. Might as well go ahead and take a look at that trigger again here. We do have that empty. So you got that little bit of take up right there. I'd say that's probably 3/16 of an inch. And then you hit that wall and then it breaks. Run that again. It's probably a little over a 1/16 worth of over travel once that breaks. My trigger gauge broke, so I can't, you know, tell you how heavy that is, but I will say it's light enough where you can still be accurate on there. I mean, a couple of my other target rifles are probably a pound, pound and a half is what I've got them turned down to. This is heavier than that, but this is more of a, you know, it's made to be a military rifle. They're not going to have that thing at 6 ounces a pound. You know, it needs to be a little bit more of a duty rated poundage in there, so they've got it set a little bit higher. Other than that, I mean, I don't mind this trigger. I don't mind 2 stages or single stages, so it's consistent, and that's all I care about. So I've got to say, I really did have fun shooting this rifle. This isn't the first time that I've shot an MRAD. I've shot 2 others. the first time was in a 308, and unfortunately they just had a bunch of 150 grain full metal jackets, just some cheapo ammo, and you know, it was shooting like 1.5 inches at 100 yards. Like, you know, it really didn't get to perform at its best because of that cheap ammo. The same way the second time was a 300 Win Mag, just had like some 150 grain hunting soft points to it. I mean, they shot a little bit better through it, but running this thing now, you know, a little more in depth, you know, doing it on my own time, I'll say I really do like this rifle. I mean, going price for these is, you know, somewhere up there around, oh, just the rifle with one caliber, about $6,500. So, I mean, shooting it does make me want one of these things, but I don't know if I'm quite ready to drop that much coin on one yet. But I mean, really the only problems that I'd had was a little more on the scope side of it. I'm not used to this PR2 reticle, so there was a couple times I screwed up my windage holds on that because it's got 0.25 mil markers in these, on these loopholes, versus you know, in my EBR7s where it's 0.2 on windage holds. I screwed that up. I'm just not used to this scope. This is a 7-35 Mark V with a PR2 in it. I've got a 5-25 with a PR2 coming, just because, you know, I want to get better using this reticle. You know, if I'm not good at something, I like to work on that. So I figured for a change, my other ones have the PR1 reticle in them, and I do like those, but I'm going to give this PR2 a try. Hopefully you liked this video, found it informative. I know I sure had fun making it. So remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.